So why are medium mechs in Battletech so dynamic? We see in the narrative of the great houses, Inner Sphere, medium mechs are the bulk of the mechs utilized in most engagements. I mean, certainly there are assault lances and heavy mechs and light mechs for recon, but most of the engagements, most of the battles involve medium mechs. And this kind of translates over from the narrative to the actual game mechanics very, very well in most cases. And of course, like everything in Battletech, there are very specialized or nuanced machines, but there's this idea of battle value, the battle value buy-in. I can get you heavy armor really fast, lots of weapons, but you're going to pay for it in battle value or the currency that you're utilizing, whether it's tonnage or C-bills. So we go into a battle with a set fixed amount, and you want to make sure you have enough mechs on the table. If you're playing combined arms, tanks and infantry support, you need to have multiple pieces to be able to handle multiple mission objectives and hopefully throw out some interference to your opponent, whether that's destroying mechs, the easiest way, of course, being a war game, or perhaps keeping forces and mechs busy while the rest of your lance can achieve mission objectives. But if we look at battle value, and we kind of have these bucket lists of armor, obviously very important. Armor basically to prevent things from going to internal damage for as long as possible. Speed, very, very important, not only for mission objectives, but being in the right place at the right time, or perhaps getting out of there if tactically you make a mistake or suddenly things shift. And there's a duality to speed, of course. There's walking and running, but also the ability to potentially jump. And while I won't say jump is mandatory, it's nice to have, to add that dimension. Before we even get into the lulls of death from above and jumping off stuff and kicking stuff, I did have a game where, look, just, come on. This happens, you got to do it, right? You can't put something like this in front of Fritz and not expect me to go for tabletop glory. I was running my Locust bomb. 8 to 12 locusts, medium laser, SRM 2-packs. Keep you busy with that while my longbows and my LRM carriers just lay down real time. Karnovs dropping off infantry everywhere. And then a charger, a lone charger, running up the side of the hex map, running up the side of the table, going to get into the rear and just start punching for absolutely low battle value buy-in. So we have that going on, and I'm fighting a stalker, and I'm fighting some heavy mechs and some assault mechs. And this stalker's in really good position. It's next to a hill, so this way it cannot be hit with direct fire from my longbows. Okay, I could indirect, but it had range and it had movement. And connecting, I'd rather go for an easier target. But it's on that hill, and I've got a locust next to that hill. I'm going to run up the hill, and I'm going to kick it in the head. Would have been better if it was a medium or a heavy or an assault mech kicking it in the head. Think about that damage transference, the difference in levels. But I did kick it in the head, but didn't do much. I didn't hit the head. I had to go for it. So you can't put something like that and not expect me to take it. But we're getting off on a tangent. Speed. Speed is very important because it allowed me to run up there and do that. Then, of course, weapons. And weapons, depending on the weight class, the three things that we're looking for, 2 to 3 things. Range. At what ranges can we operate? And there's no right or wrong. You could be an extremely long-ranged mech. If you stay at that range like a longbow, you're going to excel. You could be a multi-mixed range where I think about a Battle Master. We've got the PPC for long-range work. Then we switch to the medium lasers. Then we switch to the machine guns, SRM packs. You can have a mix of them. So what range bracket do you operate? What redundancy do you have? Redundancy in Battletech, there's a lot of modifiers. I'm walking, I'm running, we've got range, you're walking, you're running, you've got hexes, I've got my ability, and it goes up from there. I'm trying to bring that number down, you're trying to bring that number up. Redundancy, even at the higher numbers, if I need 10s or higher to hit you, firing 3 PPCs will have more of a success than 1. If I can bring those numbers really down and hit you with 3 or 4 or 5 medium lasers at point blank, and I didn't move and you barely moved, that redundancy is really going to punish you. So we want to look for redundancy in weapon types or even weapons that can complement with range, LRMs and long-range autocannons. different types of damage, but they will complement each other in range. And then finally, the number of weapons themselves. Now, a light mech or a medium mech is going to carry less weapons than a heavy mech, but again, it goes to tonnage and battle value. So when we explore these areas for the battle value, medium mechs are really where it shines. And medium mechs, the strategy I find with medium mechs, and I know we're kind of condensing it, and certainly I've pushed up to my YouTube channel here under the Battletech playlist lots and lots of reviews for some of my favorite medium mechs. Medium mechs, more than anything, I'm looking for where I can create pressure and where I can exploit weakness, where I can create the most problems for you. Now, in that statement, you say, well, Fritz, I mean, that's like every mech, right? Well, heavies and assaults, I don't have a lot of speed. Yes, there are some fast, heavy, and assault mechs, but not compared to mediums or lights. And the nature of the weapon systems of heavies are, I'm going into a certain place and I'm wrecking. So I'm going to move towards mission objectives, and you can meet me there or not. I'm going to take that hill. It's very, very, force pushing forward. Light mechs, I'm going to be running and gunning. I'm going to be skirmishing. I mean, there are certain areas where they excel. If I reverse that, if I have to attack with my light mechs, potentially I'm in trouble. Although there are certain light mechs like the Jenner where you can effectively launch an attack, but you need some support. Not the best place I want to be. If I'm an assault or a heavy mech and I got to run and chase you around and try to chase mechs around, that's not the efficient use of that. So as we move out of this circle, as we move out of this tactica circle, it becomes harder to use lights, heavies, and assaults. But mediums, the circle's everywhere. I could be quick enough to chase down and act in a recon role. I could be quick enough with enough weapons to push to attack and assault, although I don't have the armor. But what we see with medium mechs is, for the battle value, this really interesting buy-in in that you've got a good amount of armor. You could take 2 or 3 or 4 hits. And when I say that, of course, I never want to get hit. I'm going to do my best not to get hit. But there's a big difference between eating a PPC on your medium mech and on your light mech. So you can take a little bit more damage. What this means is, depending on the tactica, you could risk a little bit more for an opportunity. Or if you make a mistake as a mech warrior for whatever reason, you've got some potential recovery. You could take that hit, you've got some recovery. So that's where it's kind of interesting with how it operates. So we have the armor. We have the speed. A lot of medium mechs have jump capability. So now you can be in the right place at the right time. I use a Griffin, stock Griffin, PPC, LRM pack. The two complement each other. I will use that as kind of a sniper, right? I'll get into position. I'll fire off that long range. Fire off. You pull off a couple of mechs or some combined arms to deal with me. I run away. I get into position again. I fire, just harassing back and forth. A perfect example where you now are starting to mount enough weapon systems with redundancy and ability that it's got some bite. It's got some bite. It's not just a light mech running around with one laser. And then, of course, you have the ability with your weapons, your speed, and your armor. So this synergy, this combination of those three for a low battle value buy-in. I mean, yes, there are some expensive medium mechs, but making the jump from mediums to heavies and assaults, you pay a lot more. Looking and saying, what can you exploit? How can you be aggressive? And turn by turn in that moment, what opportunities is your opponent presenting that you can use the dynamic nature of medium mechs to exploit?